Hello, humans, and welcome back to another episode of RD2H Road to Happiness. If you're new here, I created RD2H basically as a platform to reach out to other women in their early 20s and share my development journey. I've been on a very big growth journey where I've overcome a ton of challenges. I've been learning how to do the introspection. I've been learning how to quote unquote build our her, as cliche as that sounds. And I've been wanting to share my experiences with the rest of the world. So here at RD2H, we talk about a variety of subjects, including politics, growth mindsets, career, anything that you could think of that can help you become a better person tomorrow than you were yesterday. We're all about continuous improvement here. So today I have a very special guest on my episode. We are going to be talking about the growth mindset and introspection work and the idea of human free will. Do we have free will? Is free will an actual thing or just a concept that we've created? I have my little sister here who is a undergraduate in biotechnology, and she did a research project this semester basically talking about free will, diving into the quantum physics of it and everything that you need to know about free will to gain a higher level of autonomy and become somebody that is able to manipulate their reality to get to the outcomes that you desire in this lifetime. So without any further introduction, here is my little sister who is going to help me delve on this concept throughout this episode.
Hi, I'm Nikki. I'm really excited to be here. I've been helping Nat a little bit behind the scenes on Road to Happiness, so it's really refreshing to be behind the camera and be able to talk to her and talk about free will. And I understand that I'm very young, but this whole podcast is about learning on the way and learning as we go on our experiences and determined to learn and figure out why I'm here and what my goals are here on this lifetime.
Okay, so throughout the semester, you've been working on this project, and literally, guys, every single time that I try to bring her over to hang out, it's always, I gotta write my essay. So she's been doing a ton of research for the last couple of months on the idea of free will and really cultivating this essay, which is fantastic, by the way. And I decided to bring her on the show because it just hits so many points that are really close to home on what I'm trying to relay to you guys through RD2H. So to start with your essay, you argue that free will is not given, but rather something that is actively achieved through conscious effort. And you do a little bit of research on how that actually plays a part when it comes to the science realm and how we think about, our brain connections and neuroplasticity. So what made you want to write an essay on free will?
So I really wanted to understand the concept myself because going into it, I really didn't understand anything about free will, but after writing it, I have a really good understanding, and I just really wanted to learn more on my own, and I thought I might as well do it for a research paper.
So what are the key points in your essay that you really highlighted?
My key points are that human free will is not an innate trait that we're born with. It's something that we have to build on consciously. And also, it's not a destination. It's an ongoing cycle of growth. We're constantly going through cycles of growth. Basically, I argue that free will is not an innate trait that we're born with. It's something that we have to consciously work on. Like a skill, you got to practice it, and you can make it better through that. I also argue that it's not a destination, rather an ongoing process. We go through cycles of growth, and if you want to keep growing, you have to keep going through these cycles and leveling up. Same with human consciousness. If you decide not to engage with it anymore, you can lose it.
Absolutely. And that's a point that I make here on the show all the time. The fact that, growth happens in cycles and it's a never ending journey. You're never going to get to the destination, but it is enjoying the process. And when you start to enjoy the process, things get a lot easier for you and you end up making the strides to get to the person that you want to be. Going on that, you start with 3 different philosophers and their idea of free will, because as I said, free will is something that has been debated throughout time. It has not come to an end. There is no definitive answer. And I don't think that it is an answer that us as human beings are capable of getting to. We can make all of these theories, we can do whatever, but it's falls into the land of the unknown. And so with those 3 concepts, there are 3 different types of free will that has been theorized by philosophers in the past. Those 3 ideologies are hard determinism, libertarian, and compatibilism. So hard determinists basically just believe that there is no free will, that human actions are shaped entirely by external factors. The people who believe in this theory believe that everything happens to us and that we have no autonomy, no free will, no ability to actually, curate our own lives. That's the kind of theory that the hard determinism represents. And then we go into the complete opposite of that, in contrast, the libertarian point of view. And the libertarian view basically states that free will asserts individuals have the capacity to make choices independent of past events or external forces. So that kind of ideology basically says that every decision that we make is our decision alone, and that we are in complete control, that we have complete autonomy over ourselves and everything that happens to us. That both of these kind of first two ideas that I've just shared, the hard determinism and the libertarian view, are both very extreme. And, we can see that through academic theories all the time. It's one extremity or the other extremity. We can also see that through politics. It's one extremity or the other extremity. Us as human beings, I don't know why, but we're kind of unable to find that middle ground. And it typically is a middle ground that we are looking for. So that middle ground ideology, though, is called compatibilism. And that's what we're going to be talking about and honing in mainly on this episode, the idea of compatibilism. Compatibilism is the third kind of ideology when it comes to free will, and that states that free will can exist within a deterministic framework, allowing an individual autonomy within the bounds of causation. And that is what aligns with me the most. I believe we have conditioned free will. I believe that, you do have free will to an extent and autonomy to an extent, but certain circumstances you're placed in, certain things that happen to you are meant to happen to you. And it's your job to determine how you want to react to those situations, but you don't have full control over everything. You do have full control over your reactions, and that's where the kind of idea comes in. If you can't control it, then forget about it. It'll work itself out. And if you can control it, do what you can to put yourself in the best, situation to move forward. And so with that, I'm going to have Nikki go on and explain what she means by compatibilistic point of view and why she chose to really hone in on that theory over the hard deterministic and the libertarian view.
So we can go in and then I can explain this whole essay to you talking about free will, but this is really only an intro for you to grasp your interest, and you have to do your own research and apply it to yourself to really get that understanding of how this applies to you and how you can enact in free will. But I really honed in on compatibilism because it made the most sense, and based off my research into quantum physics, it aligned with how we work at the cellular level. So I want to focus in that engaging in free will starts with a deep awareness of yourself and your surroundings. So that's basically why I want to hone in on quantum physics and how we work at the cellular level. I focus in on a compatibilistic view because we are predisposed to our genetic and environment. If you ever took a psychology course, these things take heavy tolls on us. But because of our human consciousness, we're able to be aware of that and reflect on it and change into what we want.
So you talk about how for us to understand who we are on an individualistic level, we have to first cultivate a deep awareness of ourselves and our surroundings. And you also talk about how humans operate on a fundamental level in relation to the laws of the universe. And, that's something that I've honed in on a lot in this series. When I first started my development journey and I first started this, journey to self-growth and to a better version of myself, the very first thing that I did and the very first thing I researched was the 10 laws of the universe. And that goes into, the law of abundance, the law of scarcity, all of those. And that was like the initial gateway for me to kind of start to understand how my mind works and how I am, the creator of my own universe, and how manipulating the way that I think and the way that I act inherently manipulates my surroundings. As I started to change, and understand the psychology of us as human beings, it was pretty easy from there on out to then manipulate my external. And so my question to you is, how do you believe that the laws of the universe have an effect on the way that we think and the way that we perceive the world?
In the same way that we can't play a game without understanding the rules, how can we take action in our lives without understanding the context of our existence? So I think it's really important just to learn and grow and understand who we are and what we are to really make shift and make changes towards the reality that we want.
So how do you think that neural pathways play a part in that?
So our neural pathways can work for us and against us. You know, there's a term saying that neurons that fire together wire together, which means they stay together. So the more that they're wiring, the more that they click and stay together. And we have neuroplasticity, which means that we can create new neural pathways, but that takes time and dedication. It's not an easy path because as humans, we like comfortability and we like being comfortable rather than growth. So even if we're trying to establish new neural pathways, we want to go back to our old ways because that's just how our brain feels most comfortable.
So yeah, you said a line in this essay that basically said,
people will often choose a familiar hell over an unknown heaven.
Yeah, people will often choose a familiar hell over an unknown heaven. And throughout, my experience, that is 100% true. People get trapped in their ways and they get trapped in these patterns. And it's getting out of the pattern that's the hardest part. Once you have a pattern kind of already established for yourself, it's easy to keep it going. And, whether it be substances or toxic relationships or a job that you hate, it's easier to continue to do something that just doesn't align with you than to build those neural pathways to get on the right path. So how do you think that understanding neuroplasticity can help you overcome that initial just complete backlash that our bodies and our brains give us when we're trying to be better and, start new paths, get in a new direction? How do you overcome that total resistance that your mind and body feels when trying to do that?
Well, just by being aware of it, we have two sides of us, the side that we want to be and the side that we are. And I think that when you're trying to be the side that you want to be, it takes persistence and it takes dedication and it's uncomfortable. It takes persistence and it takes you being able to overpower that initial feeling like, I don't want to do this. I just want to go back to my old ways. But you have to be able to overpower that and do the stuff that you want to do anyways.
You can cuss, it's fine. But a perfect example of this, you right now. You are on this podcast episode, you don't feel very comfortable. It's her first time talking to a camera, which it took me a really long time to adjust to talking to a camera. It's a baby step, but putting yourself in that uncomfortable position that you are right now, it's going to build you into a stronger speaker. And you just said 2 seconds ago off camera that she can't do this, but it's that kind of changing your mindset. You can do this. I mean, at the end of the day, it feels so big. It feels like, oh my God, I'm under all this pressure. People are going to judge me, whatever. I'm stuttering on my words. But at the end of the day, this is just an artificial setting. It seems so much bigger than it is. The cameras over there, they're literally just pieces of plastic. This microphone, it's literally just functional. It seems so much bigger than it is. It seems daunting. And I wanted to bring that up, put you on the spot, sorry, but it's a perfect example of how things in our life feel so overwhelming until you do them. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden it's wait, all of this is kind of artificial. It's in our minds. It's in our minds that we create these big obstacles, we create these barriers, we create, these feelings of unhinged or emotion or nervousness or whatever. Being able to understand that your brain is working that way and manipulate it in your benefit and understand oh, this is just a biological response that I'm having, and being able to overpower that biological response is the definition of free will, the autonomy that we're looking for of I can manipulate my brain to do what I want my brain to do.
Yes. And I've never been good at conversation. I've been a very quiet kid. There's been times where people have asked me to open up and I completely shut down because I just can't do it. And it's something that I'm working on. And I really don't think there'll ever be a time where I think I've reached the level of conversation that I want to. It will always be something that I'm working on, but I'll always be bettering at it. And even with this essay, I have a lot to say. Very introspective, I can write this paper perfectly. It has all the things that I needed to say, but being able to say that out loud and communicate with someone, I really struggle with. And through this podcast, it's definitely something that I'm not comfortable with.
But I think that first off, doing things you're not comfortable with, I'll push on this show all the time, is things that you need to do. And second off, the self-awareness to know maybe speaking isn't your strong suit. Maybe, this isn't something you're very comfortable with or very good at, but don't limit yourself and say that you'll never be good at speaking.
It's not that I'll never be good, but I'll never be at a state where I'm like, okay, I'm a good speaker. Like, I'll always be improving on it. Even if I'm above, like, the standard, you know, I'm, like, really good at it, I'll always want to improve on it. And I'll always want to be better at it.
Never say never. It's just doing things repeatedly. You get better at doing things the more that you do them, point blank. When I first made my episodes, the amount of edit that went through those episodes was ridiculous. I hope nobody goes back to episode 1. But here I am now. I'm able to like cultivate my thoughts. I'm able to speak in a more professional manner. I'm able to kill interviews. I killed an interview today, guys. But that wasn't me a few years ago. I had to work up to it. And I think that you are on the right track in the sense that you have the self-awareness to be able to write an essay like this, write the ideas of free will and really dive into them. But don't limit yourself saying that like you'll never get there, because at the end of the day, anything that we want to do in this lifetime is just do it. You get better with everything that you do. You want to be a writer, start writing. Your first essay, going to be shitty. I'm going to guarantee you it's going to be shitty. But your 100th essay might be good. And that goes for everything. That goes for speaking your ideas, making people understand the way that you think, everything. So that's just something that I talk about on this podcast a lot, is that you're going to suck. You're going to suck. And the first episode is going to be shitty. The first essay is going to be shitty. The first everything is going to be shitty. But it's, do I want it bad enough to keep going kind of thing. But that kind of derails from the topic of this, of free will. But I just wanted to highlight that for everybody listening, whatever you do, you're going to suck at it at first. And it is the having the self-awareness to know it's not me. I don't suck at it. I have the potential to become better at this thing, but I need to commit to it and I need to keep working towards it. So that's like a very big thing I want to highlight on the show. So another line I want to highlight from her paper that really stood out to me says, just as one cannot play a game without understanding its rules and objectives, one cannot fully control themselves without understanding the context of their existence. And I love this quote simply because I view my life as a game. Like whether it be working, I'm in the finance industry, whether it be working in finance, doing business, or, you know, my personal life, this show, whatever it be, I genuinely feel like if you can understand the basis of the quote unquote game that we're in, you know, the simulation theory is still out there, but that is a whole nother episode I could talk about. But the more that you can understand that, and you can understand, you know, the inherent rules of the game, whether it be the laws of the universe, or whether it be the psychology of how our brain works, or quantum physics, or, you know, just the basis of neuroplasticity, which basically, like she said, states that our brains have neurons and certain pathways. And the more that you do a habit, the more that you do an activity, your brain forms pathways, and you can rewire your brain, but it takes a significant amount of concentration, dedication, and most importantly, consistency. And so it is backed by science that our habits are forming, and that it's very difficult to get out of the system that you have your body and your mind currently in, but it is possible. And that's where I'm taking this episode on the idea of free will, where obtaining free will is learning how to manipulate your brain to do the things you want. Because our brain itself, like, you know how they separate mind, body, and spirit? It's very much separated. Our brain is a separate entity that is going to do what it wants and is going to find the best, fastest result to the answer in front of it, and it's going to use past experiences to get to that answer. So if you have bad habits or bad whatever lined up, your brain is going to automatically take the easiest neural pathway and is going to automatically go to the quickest answer that it has to solve the problem relative to experiences that are similar. So a basic understanding of this is cigarettes. Cigarettes are highly addictive. When you're stressed, your brain has neural pathways that says, oh, we are stressed. Well, last time we were stressed, we smoked a cigarette and we didn't feel as bad. And it's going to pick up that cigarette every time you're stressed because it's the easiest neural pathway. It's the easiest ideology that it has to solve a circumstance, stress, that it's been in a similar situation. So overcoming that neural pathway, overcoming that initial, oh, well, I need a cigarette because that's what I did last time I was stressed. That's the hard part, rewiring your brain. And Nikki can explain it a little bit better than I can based on her research, but she also states that, those original pathways never go away, which is why we so easily fall into our old habits and fall into the ways that, situations worked for us in the past, because they never go away. We rewire our brain, we add more neural pathways, but that original, whether it be a bad habit, a bad mindset, a different perspective of the world, it doesn't go away. It takes actual self-conscious and awareness to make the decision every day to take a different neural path, take a different path. Again, the decision to take a different path than the one that the crowd takes, or the one that you have previously taken, it's a short and narrow road. It takes constantly making very conscious decisions in your life, and every day and every step really overpowering your brain's wants to take the most easiest and used route that it's taken before. But obviously that route didn't lead you to the results that you wanted. So we have to put in a conscious effort in our everyday lives to try to make better decisions and take different routes. And that is basically us trying to get to our point of free will and trying to get to a point of full autonomy.
Even with this mindset of like wanting to grow and wanting to be better, I still find myself going back to old ways of comfort, because this life isn't easy. It's an uncomfortable journey of a long period of time. Like, I'm amazed every day of how long I'm here being conscious and alive. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. But I still find myself going back to those ways that give me comfort, because that's what I seek. I want to be comfortable and safe, even though that's not what's best for me. And all of this, it really comes down to awareness. And are you aware of what's happening, your disposition, and are you willing to take that uncomfortable step to become the person you want to be within this? So I dived into quantum physics because even though everything in the universe follows a certain set of laws, underneath all of that, there's an inherent randomness within it. And we also reflect that awareness. We also reflect that randomness in our lives, which we're here for some reason. We all follow the same set of rules, but we can choose and pick how our reality is. Another quantum physics theory is that when we are observing a molecule, what we observe, it becomes. So it has to pick a certain state, and we can only observe the state that it chooses, even though it's in multiple states at once. When we observe it, it stops and collapses. Same with our realities. There's so many opportunities and paths that we can take, but when you observe it and you decide the one that you want, it becomes that. Understand where we are and what we are. And that way you can really manipulate your life and take it the route you want. I quoted Jean-Paul Sartre, and he says that humans are condemned to free will, which basically means that we're under all these predispositions, but inherently underneath all of it, we have free will to choose within that.
All right, running on back to the beginning of that, I think it's funny that you said, like, I can't believe I'm still here and life is just a fucking long ass journey, because, we talk about this all the time. When I was little, I used to watch Vampire Diaries, and I know that you guys have watched Vampire Diaries, but I used to watch Vampire Diaries and I would be like, if they wanted to bite me, I would let them bite me in a second. That sounds awesome. You have full speed, you get to live forever, you get to, compel people. Like, why? I couldn't grasp the idea of somebody not wanting to live forever. And then as I grew older and, I've just been through trials and tribulations, and every single day is in some aspect a battle, whether it be battling your habits or your mind or trying to get to that next phase of your life. I could never live forever. And like you said, it's tiring. This lifetime is tiring. I'm 22, she's 18. We're young. We got time on our motherfucking hands over here. And it's tiring. And I if you're feeling the same way, you're not the only one. It is really, really difficult to find peace in this lifetime. But, here at RD2H, that's what we are trying to do. That's what the life we're trying to cultivate here. We're trying to find some peace, fulfillment, and happiness in this lifetime. And, using the idea of free will, using the idea of our psychology and our autonomy and the laws of the universe to obtain that. And so, yeah, it is a very long journey that we're on right now, but I don't think that it's impossible to get to a place where you are excited to wake up in the morning and it doesn't feel so draining every day.
Yes, I completely agree that there is definitely a place where it isn't draining and you're feeling like you're struggling through life. And I honestly touch on that because I think that free will is, we have the capacity to act in free will and take our life in our own hands and create what we want. But we also have, but there's also the view that if you don't want to take control of your life, you'll be pushed to these predetermined ways, where you're like, oh, it's fate, that's just gonna happen. Well, then you'll start seeing that where things just happen and you don't have control. And I felt that before, where it's like I don't have any control in my life, because I wasn't taking it, I wasn't actively choosing it.
I think that's interesting because that kind of goes into the, quantum physics ideologies of different timelines. Mm-hmm. And I've kind of delved into that a little bit throughout my research, not too much to really significantly talk about, but the idea of different timelines, the idea that we all have predisposed futures, and it is a conditioned free will where you have the free will to choose your responses and to decide the actions that you're going to take, which are going to lead you to bigger and better things, and in turn manipulate your external environment. But if you are not taking those actions, like you said, there is no stopping the timeline. The timeline is going to go on. Tomorrow is going to come whether you make the right decisions for yourself or not. So going on what you said, yeah, if you are unconscious, if you're not making those decisions for yourself, the decisions are going to be made for you. It is possible to get to a state of mind where you're able to manipulate your internal and in turn manipulate your external. But it, like I said, it goes into the idea of different timelines in the sense that once you do decide to start to take control, you are kind of deciding, jumping timelines. If you are unconscious, if you're not putting intentional thought into your day-to-day behaviors, then certain circumstances are just going to come towards you. They're just going to happen. You have no control because you can't stop, life from happening. But when you do, like you said, control yourself, make your intentions intentional, it almost jumps you into a different timeline. And I don't know what your thoughts on the whole timeline theory is, but I definitely do believe that, you have a predetermined fate, if you will, to a certain extent, but it's not guaranteed. It's guaranteed if you're doing the things that are aligned with you and you're on the path that you're supposed to be on. And when you are on that path, you can feel that shit. It is not a secret. You could feel that you're making those intentional decisions. But when you are, like you said, sleepwalking through life, it doesn't really work out like that.
No, you can definitely feel that you're almost trapped, and it makes you feel like you're in this deterministic framework where you have no control, when in reality you're just not taking it. And everything really just comes together to make one big picture, like we learned in English class, cause and effect, but that can be applied to our lives where everything has a cause and effect. If you're doing one input, you're going to get an output, and even if that input is something that you're not consciously doing, you'll get the output for it. So you just have to actively choose what you want to go into your life, like waking up early at 5 a.m., that boosts my energy rather than sleeping until 1 p.m. There will be an effect for that. It's just you get to decide which effect you get.
I think your body also, is fully aware when you're not doing the things that you need to do and you're not on the path that you're supposed to be on. I know for me, when I was, back in a lack mindset and I was not living intentionally and I was really just sleepwalking through my life, my body rejected everything that was in my life. I had built and created this life for myself that, was picture perfect from the outside. I looked like I had everything, yet it wasn't fulfilling me. It wasn't giving me what I thought it would give me. my body rejected it. I went into a very deep depression. I started to pretty much fail in all aspects of my life. And a main indicator for me that I'm not on the path that I'm supposed to be on is every day starts to feel like Groundhog Day. And I know other people have stated this and feel the same way, but when I'm not living intentionally, when I'm not trying to do what is in my best interest and what is aligned with me spiritually and what I know is going to get me to where I want to be, every day I wake up and I used to feel like, oh, it's the same day over and over and over again. And it's hard to break out of that cycle once you're in it. It's very like almost soul crushing, I would say, where you just feel so lost, you feel hopeless, you feel like you don't have any control in your life. And I think feeling that way, like your body and your emotions give you indications that you need to make a change. And where it is like a literal battle against your demons to make that change, feelings of depression, Groundhog Day, just overall unfulfillment, it's a sign that maybe you need to be delving in more into why your body is reacting the way that it is.
I agree completely. And a part of me almost believes that you have to go through this like complete, just like taking the easy route in life to see that that's not the route. Of course, there may be an exception to that. I have no idea. But personally, when I took the route of like, okay, this is easy. Like, I really don't have to do anything I don't want to. Like, I can just lay back and chill. And then that's when I found myself in a deep depression and I wasn't fulfilled at all. And since then, like, I reflected on that and I realized that's not what I wanted. And that's really what pushed me for this growth mindset of wanting more and achieving more, even though nobody's standing in front of me saying, you have to do this. Like, it took myself to say, I want to do this for myself. And I think coming to that realization, it was just laying back and doing nothing, because that's an option in this lifetime. You don't have to do anything you don't want to, but you'll see the results in that, because everything, once again, is cause and effect. And what I was inputting, I got my outputs, and I did not like them. I was not having a good time. So I changed my inputs, and recently I've been growing a lot more.
I 100% agree. Like, there is nobody telling you that you have to do things. There's nobody telling you that you have to become, somebody that you're proud of, or to get up in the morning and run that mile. There's nobody telling you. And I think that's part of adulthood. I just think that's part of the giant transition from adolescence to adulthood that, we're working on figuring out on this show, is the fact that, from the ages of birth to 18, basically, there is structure in your life. There are school systems telling you that you need to do something. There's parents telling you need to do something, Once you hit that age of adulthood, it's really up to you. Nobody's going to go out and do it for you. Nobody's going to get you that goal that you want. You have to do it yourself. But going on what you were saying, I think that it is not fulfilling unless you do it yourself. You are not going to feel that gratification and that, inherent peace that we're looking for unless you do it yourself. And that's where we see so many, housewives. And again, if that is what you decide to do with your life, no hate to you. Absolutely. Everybody has their own path. Everybody has their own things that bring them fulfillment. I know for me, being a housewife wouldn't bring me fulfillment, but the beauty of this world is that we're all different and we all bring different characteristics to the table, and we're able to, excel in this lifetime because we're all different. And so embracing those differences is important. But for me, that wouldn't bring me fulfillment. And I know that from a young age. But I see different housewives. I see people who took that route in life. And although they're given everything, whether it be money, monetary status, they're typically unfulfilled. They typically want more. They want, recognition. They, want to do something, because in our DNA, predisposed, we are meant to work hard and to reap what we sow. We are meant to, harvest the fruits of our labor. And if you're not putting the active labor into the harvest when you're fed, it just doesn't mean as much.
I see us as human beings all together. We are a collective, and I think that individuals are just different aspects of ourselves, experiencing ourselves. And it really comes down to, we are a collective, but we're all individual, and you have to meet the needs of this specific part of yourself and what it's craving. And I just believe that you really have to do it all on your own, and you got to make what you want on your own, or else you won't get that fulfillment because someone else did it.
Yeah, I say it all the time. Like, if I were to just get married to somebody who's wealthy and can give me the lifestyle that I want, every single day I would wake up and know that that's not something that I earned for myself. I am building a life for myself right now, and I am trying to get to this version of myself that I envision. And, whether it be money or status, I think that is just a, side effect to my goal. It's something that is just going to probably be tagged along, but it's not the goal. The goal is to wake up in the morning and be proud of myself, proud of how much, I've persevered, proud of how many challenges have come my way and I found solutions to, proud that I know that I have such a deep understanding of myself and such a deep consciousness and just self-awareness that I am not afraid of anything that happens to me in this physical reality. I know that through my mind, prayer, and working towards what I can actually, change in the moment, things will work itself out. If I do not have the capability to, fix something and it is out of my control, it will figure itself out. As long as I am doing what is in my control, there's nothing in this physical reality that can, come against me. The quote from the Bible, no evil sword forged against me shall prosper. And that is genuinely how I live my day-to-day life. If I'm doing what I need to do, there's nothing in this reality that I'm really scared of because I have such a deep understanding of me as an individual.
So I want to touch on Immanuel Kant, and he basically says that free will exists in the capacity of rational beings to act according to self-determined moral laws rather than being driven by external forces or impulses. What I really got from this quote is that we have the capacity to act in free will, but that doesn't exactly mean that we're born with it and it's just there. We have to work towards it, and we have to really want it to engage in it. While not everyone actively engages, everyone has the potential to do so. It really takes self-discipline to engage with it and want it.
Well, if you listen to the podcast, I definitely agree with that. I am a big believer that the biggest competition that you will ever have in your lifetime is a competition with yourself. And it is constantly fighting that initial cognitive inertia that wants us to be the same, wants us to, stay in the same patterns that we've always been in. And that's the kind of battle between mind, body, and soul, where your soul wants one thing. Your soul wants peace. It wants to, get on the path of purity and be able to just find some peace in this lifetime and fulfillment. But the mind and the body is going to fight you on that tooth and nail. So it's like you said, that initial self-discipline that is required to overpower your own brain and your own body. And, constantly, whether it be like people say fighting your demons or however you want to word that, you're constantly in a battle with yourself. Constantly, how can I be better? How can I improve? And it's through that fight, that internal fight, that you find the progress in this lifetime. But there is no progress without challenge. You're not going to get to that mark, get to that point that you want to be at without literally fighting yourself internally. But when you can learn to overcome yourself, your brain, your habits, and be a warrior, basically a warrior in your own mind, you're able to manipulate your body and your actions.
And a part of all of this, having self-autonomy, it's part of evolution. We're always working to be the next self of ourselves. We're always becoming a new version of ourselves, and that will never really stop. And I think with a lot of people, they just get comfortable in the ways that they are, and they get stuck in the present version of themselves. And that's where we really decline as humans, and we start to go into the negative aspects of ourselves because we stop growing and becoming something new. And that's something that will never stop. We'll always becoming a new version of ourselves. There's always something more to become, some aspect of yourself that you have to step into and become.
I completely agree. Evolution is what we're doing here. If you are the same person you were 5 years ago, then you're doing something wrong. We are constantly supposed to be growing and evolving, especially as we get into, this early adult age that we're in right now. It's constantly refining how we can improve. So although we as human beings don't like change and we push it, I think being able to master change and to like have change come into your life so frequently and be so uncomfortable and almost be comfortable in the uncomfortable to the point where you welcome change and you know that it's leading to bigger doors and bigger things. That's the point that we're trying to get to, because, you know, like Nikki was saying, this lifetime is about constant evolution. You're not supposed to be the same person. You're constantly supposed to be having new realizations, building on, you know, who you were yesterday to get to that new open door that you're looking to get to. And although that's scary, terrifying, uncomfortable, it's something that we each have to do. And it's the difference between, you know, staying in a place that you know you're just not satisfied with, and just accepting that that is the way that life is and those are the cards that you've been dealt, versus saying, fuck that. I know that if I work on this and I do the introspect and I change my behaviors, I can open different doors. And that's the difference between that victim mentality, which I do not represent on this show, where it's just like everything happens to me. I'm a victim. The cards I got dealt sucked and the circumstances I'm in are the reason I am why I am. That is not an excuse. I think every single one of us has shit. We all have secret skeletons in our closet. We all have experiences that suck, things that have inherently challenged us and made us want to straight up quit. But like the difference is, are you going to quit? Because you can blame your circumstances, you can blame the cards you've been dealt until your face turns blue. But like I said, nobody's coming to save you. So it's understanding that whatever cards you've been dealt, it's your choice. It is like up to you to decide how you're going to move forward from that. Because there is no point in dwelling in the past. It's how are you going to move forward from that? Everybody has their own shit. So rather than, you know, taking a victim mentality and deciding that the fate that you've been giving is the end all be all, how are you going to make the best of your cards? And I just like wanted to highlight that, because I think too many of us sit with that, oh, life is what it is. I should be grateful because at least I have a roof over my head and whatever. But it could be so extraordinary if you're willing to understand how to manipulate your internal to get the results that you want in the external.
It really amazes me that this whole human experience, I feel like it's never talked about. And even if I'm like not in the right rooms, it should be talked everywhere. This concept of growth, and nobody knows why we're here exactly. We're all trying to figure it out. But I feel like nobody's focusing in on the bigger issue of like why we're here and what we should do. And it just really amazes me that I like when I bring up stuff like death and people are shocked and they don't want to talk about that. But then why are you here? What is the goal here? Like, what is your goal if that's not where you're focusing in on? And I just believe that we really need to focus in on self-awareness, reflection, and changing into the people we want to be, because that's what this is all about. It's all about evolving and becoming something new. We're not the same people we were 3 generations back because we learned from them, and we're still growing. And 3 generations from now, hopefully, we're human beings with a higher conscious level that get a deeper understanding of what it is we're experiencing.
I totally agree with you in the sense that a lot of people have a giant fear of the future, of aging, of death, of hitting big marks, of things changing, you know, their environment's changing. It sends them into an existential crisis, a spiral. And when you have a deep understanding of what you're supposed to be doing here and, you know, what your path is, and an acceptance on the level of understanding, you know, your brain, what we've been talking about on this episode, and just an understanding of who you are, those things aren't scary to you. You do not find any fear in this reality. But back when I didn't have this mindset and I was still developing and I didn't have the introspect I do now, yeah, it was all really scary. The idea of aging, the idea of death, the idea of, you know, maybe not getting to your goals, or of circumstances changing, of people leaving your life. That is scary when you don't have a strong foundation. But I think that once you start to, you know, delve into the psychology, the quantum physics of it all, and really just become a student of the universe, you know, start learning through your day-to-day life, through the synchronicities in your life, through everything that is presented to you on a day-to-day basis. When you become a student of the universe and you really try to hone in on an understanding of what our purpose here on earth is, what we're supposed to be doing here, and how to get to the version of ourselves where we feel we did the best with what we were given on an inherent level. Because, there are times of rest, and I talked about this on the last episode. There are times of rest and there are times of excuses. You can inherently feel if you are doing what you need to do and you're on the right path, or whether you're making excuses for yourself and just honestly, at the end of the day, lying to yourself. You could feel that shit. And I feel like when you really do gain that deep understanding of a consciousness and who you are, that fear just goes away. The idea that everything will work out in divine timing, when it's supposed to work out, how it's supposed to work out, and everything else, it doesn't matter. It is just an illusion in front of me to make me feel like there are bigger obstacles ahead of me than there actually are.
Yes, accepting it and just trying to understand it and being able to talk to it. Like, Natalie is one of my biggest sources where I can talk about all this stuff, because people don't feel comfortable in these conversations, but being able to really just delve in and try and figure shit out, it really brings comfort to me.
All right, guys. Well, I'm going to wrap up this episode here. I hope you enjoyed this conversation, and I hope you go ahead and dive deeper into the laws of the universe. There's tons of YouTube videos on it. Dive deeper into quantum physics and get into rabbit holes. Become a student of the universe. Become somebody who is just a sponge and just wants to absorb knowledge, because that is your gateway to autonomy. That is your gateway to consciousness. That is how you become somebody that the rest of the world can't fuck with, straight up cannot fuck with, when you know yourself at such an inherent level and you are so comfortable with your purpose and who you're supposed to be that everything else is just back noise. Everything else is just, the devil trying to send you challenges and you laughing at them. You straight up laughing at them, because there is nothing outside of yourself that you need. Once you have that, internal basis and you're working towards those goals and getting a deep understanding of yourself, that is all you need. At the end of the day, everything else is just a reflection of you and your internal being. So I love you guys. I'll probably dive deeper into a little bit more of this topic. It was a little bit rushed today, but I hope you guys got enough of a basis to get you intrigued and get you to start thinking the way that we're thinking and to start doing the research for yourself. And like I said, becoming a student of the universe, because that's how we're going to get to the place of peace and fulfillment that we're working at RD2H here to reach in this lifetime. So I love you guys, and I'll see you guys next week on another episode of RD2H Road to Happiness. Follow me on Instagram, X, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Twitter, X, same thing. But they're all at RD2H podcast. And again, I will see you next Tuesday, another episode of RD2H Road to Happiness. And I hope you guys have a great week. Love you. Bye.